in a little shotgun house. It was only a 3-room house. It was really a kitchen and a little living room, which we had as a bedroom, and the middle section of it was a bedroom. And it was 4 or 5 of us living at that time in that house. I had, I think, myself and 3 or 4 brothers.
You know, Dad, I was just thinking the other day. I was trying to remember that where you said you had. Where did you say you had your first job?
Dana, my first job was working at a drive-in theater. You know, back in those days, that was the main things going on across the country. Is drive-in theaters, very popular. And I got a job there selling hot dogs out of the concession stand. I'd go from from car to car selling hot dogs, and you know, it was a good job for me. I had to walk to the drive-in theater from our house, and
How old were you?
I was about, I think I was around 8 years old.
Oh, you was?
when I got that job, and I'd make $10, $15 a week, you know, which was a lot of money for,
yeah.
And it really helped pay a lot of buy my clothes and school clothes and things like that. Every morning I'd be coming home from feeding the horses, and I'd see this beautiful Victorian house, walk right by it, you know, and I said, golly, that thing must be some rich people living in that house. And I said, one of these days, you know, I'd like to have a house like that. Well, when I first got married to Dodie, you know, my first job was actually working for a paint contractor, you know. And after about 30 days, I think he fired me because I wasn't a very good painter.
And how old were you then?
I was 20.
20?
19 now. Oh, yeah. I just turned 20. And so...
He fired you?
I think they kind of let me go.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did get a job at International Paper Company here in Waco.
Yeah.
I was making $300 a month, and then Dodie got pregnant, and with you, Dana, you were conceived.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that. But anyway, after a few months, I felt like I needed to find something that I could really support her. Since I had a family, I could make more money, and I saw this ad in the paper, in the Waco Tribune, and it said, give me 15 minutes of your time and I'll show you how you make $150 to $200 a week. And I said, oh, that sounds good, you know. So I went by there after I got off from International Paper Company at 5 o'clock. I went by this little Castle Motel there in Waco and interviewed for this position. It was selling insurance. Well, what really impressed me at that interview, there was 2 men there, one older man and one guy about a year younger than I was, named Marvin Gill, and they gave me the presentation how they furnish leads just like we do today, and for health sales, and he pulled out of his briefcase 4 or 5 applications he had sold that day. He said, I made over $150 a day. And I thought to myself, if that young guy can do it, I can too. Anyway, I went home. I was late, and Dodie was upset. She was sitting outside the garage apartment we was living in, and I told her, I said, Dodie, I'm going in the insurance business.
She said, from salary to commission.
Yeah, she said, well, she didn't know. She said, what kind of salaries they pay? And I said, no, it's straight commissions. I said, we can make some money, $150, $200 a week.
Ever since then, it's just history, huh?
Well, actually, when I took the position, sure enough, I got trained with that company, and I started making $150, $200 a week.
Yeah.
And so it was really exciting, and so what really changed my life, though, was after about 2 months, I had an appointment out in North Waco, and I drove up in my '54 Ford I was driving. I didn't have an air conditioner. It was hot. I had this lead. He's out in North Waco. Big, huge home out there.
Yeah, bigger than the one.
It was about the same size, a little bigger. But yeah, it was a big one, and beautiful home, and a big old black Cadillac sat out front. I had this lead boy, and it made me nervous. I pulled up there in that 54 Ford, no air conditioning, you know. And I went up and knocked on the door, and this real elegant gentleman came to the door and invited me in. I went in and I gave my presentation. I had to get myself all enthusiastic to try to make this sale, you know. And he didn't buy it, but when I was leaving, he looked over and he said, I want to give you something. He said, you look like a young boy that wants to do some things in life. And he said, I'm going to give you these 2 books. One of them was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The other was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. He said, you take those books and read them. He said, you can do anything you want to in life. So I took the books home, and the first book I read was Think and Grow Rich. I thought, you know, that sounded more interesting to me. I thought people just inherited things like that. So I felt, I said, well, if I can get rich, I'll have plenty of friends. I don't need to read this other book. You know? But one of the things that I learned from Napoleon Hill's writings is that you've got to set goals. You've got to set goals for yourself. And so one of the first goals that I set in life, and after I got that book, was I wanted to make $500 a week instead of $150, $200 a week. And I said, I think I'll just try this thing, see if it works, you know. So I wrote out on a piece of paper, several pieces of paper, that if I wanted to make $500 a week by a certain time, I put a time on it, and I plastered that on the refrigerator in my bathroom. I put it on my dash of my 54 Ford.
I remember Mom telling me you had them everywhere.
No, she thought I was crazy, you know. But I started reading those every day, you know, and I had that goal of $500 a week. And before the time limit was up, I'd already accomplished that goal. I had my first $500 a week. And then after that, it was easy. I mean, it would seem like I would make $500 every week after that. I'll never will forget this pull up in front of it. It's about 1963. And we pull up in 62 or 63, we pull up in front of this cafe to get something to eat. And y'all jumped out of the car, and Dodie headed toward the cafe. And right beside us, a big, beautiful white Cadillac. It had red leather interior. I never will forget it. It was Coupe de Ville. And I went over and looked at it, and I went back to the car and got in the car. And Dodie said, what are you doing? Let's go eat. I said, well, I got to write this goal down, Dodie. I want that car, one just like it next. I wrote that goal down on that car. And I had a goal at a certain time to accomplish that goal. And just about every goal that you set, you always accomplish it before your time limit. But you got to have a time limit.
Well, I think you've accomplished every goal for the time limit.
Practically, yes. But it's all like magic. I mean, when you write it down and you start believing it, I mean, it happens. And that's what happened on that Cadillac, you know.
I guess you don't just as well write it down. You visualize it.
You visualize it. Well, you read it every day. You actually, it creates a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of dreams, and it focuses you in the right direction. And for some reason, it's sort of like magic. It happens.
That's great.
Hey, I overheard y'all talking, and I was thinking back to the story you told me. Your goal is to set 20 presentations a week, and you'd been on 19 presentations, and you hadn't sold any of them. You remember that story?
That's a true story.
See, I thought you forgot because I was probably down that week, and you were probably trying to motivate me.
No, that's a true story. I was really down too. That last call, I made the 20th call. You know, I walked in on that call, and this man and his wife sitting there, and the man was about 63 years old, and his wife's about 58. And he said, I'm going to retire in a couple of years, but I've got insurance on me and my wife now, and I'm going to retire. And they furnished my insurance on me after I retire. And I said, oh my goodness, another call here I'm not going to make a sale on. So I was so negative at that time, I just said, well, thank y'all very much for your time, and I got up to leave. And he said, well, I want to ask you a question. And he said, you know, my wife, they don't carry the insurance on my wife after I retire in 2 years. She's not going to have any insurance. And I said, well, you really shouldn't wait till 2 years to get it, because if her health turns, she gets in bad health, she can't buy insurance. He said, well, that's what I thought. So I wrote that policy, and while I was there, he gave me 2 other people that worked for that same company. And I said, well, why don't you get on the phone and call them? I'll go call them tomorrow. And he got on the phone, made me appointments for the next day, and I went over to both of them. And then I had some more calls on Saturday and wound up with a pretty good week.
Just off that one
Just
call?
off that one call. If it hadn't been for that call, I might have went in. I might have been done for the week.
Over the years, I'm happy to say the company has been the cornerstone of remarkable prosperity for many individuals. Not only did the company help many people reach financial independence, each one of those people played a role in building this company. The marketing opportunities we offer today are as rewarding as they have ever been.